Stop for a second and ask yourself this: what if the dream you are chasing so hard isn't even yours? What if all the effort, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, the endless pressure, is only pushing you towards a finish line that you never even wanted to cross? That's not just scary, it's heartbreaking. And yet, this is the hidden truth of millions of lives around the world. This is where the story of Rohan begins. Rohan grew up in a small middle-class family where dreams were already decided before children could even spell the word dream. In his neighborhood, there were only two badges of honor: becoming a doctor or becoming an engineer. Anything else, that was considered a waste of time, a path for failures, or people who weren't serious about life. From the time Rohan was a child, his parents painted a clear picture for him. One day, he would wear a white coat, carry a stethoscope around his neck, and live a secure life. Every guest who came to visit heard the same line from his father: "This is my son, Rohan. He will become a doctor." Rohan smiled politely whenever he heard it. He wanted to make his parents proud. He wanted to avoid disappointing them. But deep inside, something never felt right. Whenever he picked up his science books, his mind wandered. But whenever he picked up a pencil, his heart lit up. He loved to draw. He loved colors. He loved creating things that didn't exist until he imagined them. But in his family, art was not a career, it was a hobby. A distraction. A dangerous dream that could ruin his future. And so, Rohan buried his passion. He forced himself into the race designed for him by others. His days were filled with endless study, late nights, exams, and pressure. On the outside, he was the obedient son walking the perfect path. But on the inside, he felt like a stranger in his own life. He was running in a marathon where the prize didn't belong to him. Little did he know, the weight of chasing someone else's dream would one day force him to confront the most important question of his life: whose dream am I really living? The turning point in Rohan's life didn't arrive with thunder or lightning. It came quietly, disguised as a simple poster on a college notice board. It was the final year of his medical entrance preparation. Stress was at its peak. Mock tests, coaching classes, late-night study sessions. Everyone around him seemed laser-focused on their dream of becoming doctors. But for Rohan, every textbook felt heavier than the last. He would stare at diagrams for hours, not with passion, but with pure exhaustion. One afternoon, while walking through the college corridor, something colorful caught his eye. It was a poster for a local art competition. Theme: express freedom through colors. Rohan froze. Freedom, colors. Those two words pierced through him like a spark in the dark. For the first time in months, his heart beat with excitement instead of pressure. But almost instantly, doubt crept in. What if someone sees me entering? What will my friends say? What will my parents think? He almost walked away, but the little voice inside him, the one he had been ignoring for years, whispered louder this time: "This is who you are. Just once, listen to me." That night, while his classmates revised anatomy chapters, Rohan locked himself in his room with a blank canvas. He dipped his brush into paint, and as the colors flowed, something magical happened. Hours passed like minutes. For the first time in a long time, he didn't feel like he was working, he felt like he was breathing. Every stroke carried the emotions he had buried. Every color reflected the freedom he craved. When he finally stepped back, his eyes welled up. He hadn't just painted a picture. He had painted his soul. Submitting that painting took more courage than he expected. His hands trembled as he handed it over. Part of him was terrified. Terrified of judgment, terrified of rejection, terrified of disappointing his family. But another part of him felt lighter, braver. For once, he wasn't chasing someone else's dream. He was chasing his own. A week later, the results came. Rohan had won first prize. The judges praised his originality, his emotion, his talent. For the audience, it was just an award. But for Rohan, it was confirmation. The inner voice he had silenced all these years had been right. He was born to create. But with that victory came a storm of resistance. His friends laughed, his relatives criticized, and his father's disappointment cut the deepest. Yet Rohan knew, there was no going back. Rohan stood at a crossroad. On one side was the safe, predictable path his parents wanted: medical school, stability, and respect. On the other side was an uncertain, risky, and lonely road, the road of art. Most people around him told him to be practical. They said, dreams don't pay bills. Be sensible, do what everyone else is doing. But deep in his heart, Rohan had already made a choice. He couldn't go back to living a life that didn't belong to him. He had tasted the joy of creating, and no amount of fear could erase that. So, he decided to dare. He finished his degree to honor his parents, but instead of pursuing medicine, he began to build his world with colors. At first, it was anything but easy. He painted portraits for small amounts of money, created murals for cafes, and posted his work online. There were nights when he questioned himself. Days when his father's words echoed in his head, "Art won't feed you." But here's what kept him going: passion. Unlike textbooks, painting didn't feel like a burden. Unlike exams, every brushstroke felt like freedom. He wasn't counting hours anymore, he was lost in them. And slowly, his dedication started to bear fruit. People began noticing his talent. His online posts gained followers. Small art shows invited him to display his work. Soon, his paintings were being sold, not just locally, but to buyers across the country. One day, a well-known magazine featured him as the artist who dared to choose differently. The proudest moment, however, came in silence. Rohan had just completed his first solo art exhibition. The gallery was filled with strangers admiring his work. In the corner, he noticed his father standing quietly, staring at a canvas. His father's eyes were moist, his lips trembling. After a long pause, he turned to Rohan and whispered, "Son, I was wrong. You were never meant to wear a white coat. This is who you are. And I am proud." In that moment, Rohan realized something powerful. Success is not about living up to the world's definition. Success is about daring to be yourself, even when the world tells you not to. And that's the lesson for all of us. Stop chasing others' dreams. Dare to be different. Dare to be you. Because the world doesn't need another copy, it needs your original masterpiece.